Hi everybody, this is Brian at 3dmetaltools.com. Hey, I wanted to take a minute to introduce our newest offering, which is our cylinder/dome forms. When it comes to making 3D metal models, you're going to be making cylinders very frequently, and you'll be making domes on a less frequent basis, but without a good dome form, they can be difficult to do. Now with cylinder forms, sure, you can use, the end of an X-Acto knife for this diameter. You could use a pencil, you could use anything that is cylindrical, but having a full array of cylindrical forms all the way from 2 millimeters here, very small, all the way up to, this is 38.1 millimeters or 1.5 inches, and that's a big hunk of acrylic right there. It's very handy. And then of course being able to form domes over all of these over here are also incredibly handy. So let me show everybody, there's actually 5 different offerings that we have for these cylinder/dome forms, and I'll show all of them to you, and then I'll also show you how you would use these in practical applications. So first is this is going to be our set that is steel and covers the smaller diameters. So this set here is going to go from 2 millimeters all the way up to 11 millimeters. And then down here, pardon my fingerprints, down here you'll see the references that corresponds to each cylinder form. So what that means is you can take a piece and size it up here, find out what length it is, compare it to this square, and then figure out which cylinder form is the one that you want to use to make that. Okay, now the next is basically the exact same idea. This is our basic cylinder/dome set that is housed in a more unique stand. And these go from 11.4 millimeters all the way up to 38.1 millimeters, or 0.450 inches up to 1.5 inches. So between the small set and the larger acrylic set, we go from 2 millimeters all the way up to 38.1. That's a very good range to be covered for this hobby. So with this set, it works exactly the same, except that the reference sheet is housed inside. So I think you can see that there's just a little slot that this hides in for storage, and then you can see that this is the sheet that you would use to line up your parts, figure out what the right length is, what the correct diameter is that corresponds with whatever length your part is. Then you can choose the correct form. So now these are available in both, as the set. So this set is available with the rack and with the reference. This is available with this sheet that serves as a rack and a reference. Or if you want to buy just the steel cylinders alone, we sell those at a lower price. Or if you want to buy the acrylic, the larger dome and cylinder forms at a lower price without the rack and reference, we also offer that too. Now, you may think to yourself, well, why not get both? Well, that's what we have put together just recently, and that is the master set. So if you can imagine, take a look here, you can see that this is actually a very much thicker rack that is layered. So here's your normal reference for the acrylic, the larger cylinders, and then inside here the smaller steel cylinders will fit and be housed inside this. So within this rack you can have the entire set. So this is what we're calling the master set. It will include all of the larger size acrylic cylinder/dome forms, as well as the smaller sized steel cylinder forms and all of their references. So there's really 5 offerings. We've got the small cylinder with rack and reference. We've got the steel cylinder alone. We have the larger acrylic with rack and reference, and then we have, and then you can buy the acrylic pieces all alone if you don't want the rack, and then we have the master set that has everything all in one shot. You may ask yourself, why are these larger ones made from acrylic and why are the smaller ones made from steel? Well, if I had manufactured these really big acrylic pieces out of steel, it would be very, very expensive. I don't think that we require steel for what we do. It's possible that maybe these would get a little bit scratched, but that's still not going to affect the function and the utility of them. They're still going to work perfectly fine. And then the steel pieces, or the steel cylinders, I would never manufacture these out of acrylic because when you get down to these smaller diameters, they'd be much easier to break. So that's why we're offering the smaller size in steel and the larger size in acrylic. So let me show you how you would use this in a practical situation. So let's say that we have this piece right here. If I'm not mistaken, this is a piece that comes from Cinderella's carriage, I believe. And it's a longer piece, and what we'll need to do is to take this and roll it into a cylinder. So I'm pretty sure we're going to need to use the larger set for this. So here is the reference for the larger set, and I'm simply going to place this piece to figure out that's too big, too big, too big. That's about right. So right here, 800 or 20.3 millimeter, and right over here is my 800 slash 20.3 millimeter form. So pretty simple. You're just going to take this piece and roll it around, and that's going to give you the perfect shape. Now many times these longer pieces will want to spring back. So you see how I formed it around this, and it's not really a good circle yet. So sometimes you may want to go to a smaller size than what is called for, especially on these thin pieces, because they will spring back, and then go ahead and do this bend a little bit more than what is called for, and then that will bring it a lot closer to where it should be, and the spring back won't be nearly as dramatic. Now we could also go down a size smaller with this one, because this one is so thin that it's getting a lot of spring back. So I went down a size smaller, and now we're getting just about that perfect cylinder form that we're wanting. Now when it comes to creating domes, that's where you'll use these cylinders slash dome forms right here, and this, each one of these will form a perfect dome. You'll notice that there isn't any references here, so you're not going to lay down your piece on a circle and find the correct one, because I don't feel that that's completely necessary, and I may not have had room to put it on these references regardless. But I don't know that it's really that necessary anyways. If you're forming a dome, essentially what you generally want to do, what I recommend anyways, is get a dome form that you know is going to be larger than what you need, and start forming your piece around that dome. Then you'll see that you're going to get closer and closer. Go to the smaller dome, and if you've got your estimates pretty accurate, then maybe you're going to go one size oversize and then bring it down. If you still find that your seams aren't matching up perfectly, you can always go down a smaller size. But having a reference for the domes, I didn't find to be necessary. At least when I do my builds, I don't find them to be important. So that's how the dome form works. I recommend starting with one that you know is a little oversized, and then bring it down to the perfect size. So that's how these work. I hope if anybody has any questions, let me know. But as of now, these are on our website at 3dmetaltools.com. So again, 5 offerings. The normal acrylic larger cylinder forms with rack and reference. The larger acrylic cylinder slash dome forms without the reference, so you can get them less expensive just by having the forms if you feel that you don't need the rack or the reference. Then we have the small steel forms available with the rack and reference. Then we also have the steel cylinder forms just alone without rack and reference, and then we have the big master set that covers everything. So if anybody has any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, you can see these over at 3dmetaltools.com. Thank you.